Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I apologize for the confusion, and I greatly appreciate your patience as we've tried to navigate it. If you don't know me, my name is Julia Gomez. I'm hoping that this will work. I apologize. My phone, of course, has to charge, so I'm trying to make things work. And hi, this is not my normal setup, so everything is very off. I apologize. My name is Julia Gomez. I'm the chair of the youth committee. As I said, I appreciate your patience and bearing with me through this evening. If you see me looking away, I'm just taking my minutes so that I can submit them before I forget all the good stuff. So please, I hope that's not too off-putting for folks. I'm gonna jump right in. The first item on our agenda, as always, is introduction of guests. If there's anyone who's new here, or if anyone here doesn't know everybody else, please feel free to introduce yourselves.
Hello all, my name is Larita Watson and I represent KHCC. I'm standing in for Eleanor. She typically is here. And I think there's some issues before the board concerning our students. So I am representing KHCC, Kingsbridge Heights Community Center.
I'm Barbara Kale, and I am a retired professor of social work at Fordham, and I have an interest in aging and services for the aging. And so that's why I've been coming to these meetings, I guess maybe 3 or 4 months now. Thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tamika. I'm with an organization called Young Life. This is my second meeting, so I'm glad to be back.
Hi, everybody. Jody Cologne, Friends of Spite and Dival. I figured I'd pop in and talk about some of the opportunities we offer in parks across our district for some multi-generational volunteering community service activities. And I'm just going to turn my video off because I'm walking around. I don't want you to get seasick with me.
All right. So normally, if this is your first meeting with us, I don't really, you don't have to be a community board member to participate. I welcome all thoughts and viewpoints. However, you do have to be a community board 8 member to vote. Those are the only people who count towards quorum. I believe the rules for quorum are half plus 1. There are 3 members. That would be 1.5 plus 1 is 2.5, which means we all have to be here. And we are still missing Mr. Villaverde, who I have notified he may be running a touch late. So I am going to go ahead and skip item 2, which is approval of the May minutes. We can discuss them when we have enough folks to vote on those minutes. And I'll move into the chairperson's report. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for participating in these meetings this year. This is our last meeting before the summer break. If you are not aware, the community board generally meets September through June. Unless there are pressing issues that we need to vote on over the summer, we can call an emergency meeting. That doesn't happen as often, but all of you have helped move the committee forward. All of you have helped expand our perspectives, and I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your days to spend with us. If you are not aware, and you might not be, we were notified earlier this month that in-person meetings will be resuming for community board members. That means if you are a member of Community Board 8, you will have to start appearing in person later this month, including our full board meeting at the end of this month. If you are a community member, the community board did pass, I think it was about a year ago now, hybrid meetings, which means we are still going to host Zoom meetings. But if you are on the committee, you have to be in person unless you get an excused absence. And we have some bylaws about that. I won't bore everyone because it would be hammered those out pretty extensively last year. Due to the small space, we're not sure how many people are going to be willing to host us, what their capabilities are. We are encouraging the community to participate via Zoom rather than trying to come to the board office or wherever it is that we're meeting. But if you really feel strongly about participating in person, please just reach out to us. We'll let you know if we can accommodate you or not. If we can, I'm more than happy to accommodate anyone who wants to come hang out with us. The more the merrier. And lastly, I did get an email from the Special Committee on Racial Equity. Every year at the end of the year, they kind of evaluate what the community board has done and that individual communities have committees have done regarding racial equity and in the resolutions we pass and our budget requests that we ask for. I would say that I think while I don't think we made a conscious effort or a verbalized effort to focus on racial equity, I do think that the things that we've supported and the projects that we've tried to undertake have had racial equity focus, or with the spirit of that. I would suggest for the next year in September that we try to bring it a little bit more to the front of our minds and a little bit more explicit in our discussions, because I do think it's an important issue. And I think, it may not affect every decision we make or not, but I think we should pause and say, hey, is there a perspective here that we're missing? Whether it's race, ethnicity, age, gender, sexual orientation, whatever it is, making sure that we're being as inclusive as possible, that we're representing all the youth in this community board district. I lost my notes to myself about the chair's report. Actually, that was it. That is my entire chair's report for this evening. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. In that case, I am also going to say that we circle back to discussion of the Comeback Kid Awards, because that usually requires a vote. I will text Mr. Villaverde again to see if we can get him here, and move on to item number 5, discussion of ongoing joint meetings with Aging Committee. For those of you who were not here in our last meeting was a joint youth and aging meeting with kind of a thought about, can these two committees be merged? Is this something that we should just be working closely together but maintain our separate spaces? How much intergenerational space is there in your individual centers or the population you serve? So I just wanted to give folks a chance, while it's just us here, to see if anyone had any thoughts or had reflected on it a little bit more since our last meeting, anything they wanted to share now that we've had some time to sit with it. Or if you have any thoughts for moving forward, if you feel like more or less not enough, we should have ideas for projects, just kind of open the floor to anyone who'd like to speak up.
I think one of the most valuable things we touched on in that meeting was the possibility of mentoring. I think, like, of all the intergenerational events that are out there, I think mentoring has the most value for all the people involved, and especially in terms of long-term impact. And I think that the community centers are a great way, a great conduit to connect kids with mentors. If the community centers know the kids and there are other community centers who know the elderly, I think that's really the area where youth and aging can work together the best. And that also has the potential to ensure a little bit more, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it, that might also help to work towards the Racial Diversity and Inclusion Committee's goals. I think that that's one of the most socially impactful things we could do.
Agreed. Any other thoughts?
I took my video off and not my sound. Hi, Larita from KHEC. I'm new here, but I also think it would add value as far as them the youth and the elders understanding each other better. And there's a lot to learn from each other. Mentoring is good. Passing off old knowledge, but also having youth perspectives on how they're living today. And I agree, centers are best place for that, because you can actually, because we have a few things going as far as art programs. Some of that stuff has been done virtually now. We have a older group come to teach the younger kids, the tweens, art. And they have a good time with it. They actually have a good time with it, both groups.
Wonderful. Any other thoughts?
I'm going to jump in if you don't mind. I would like to try to expand your perspective a little bit. If you haven't heard of our group or the events that we do, Friends of Spuyten Duyvil was started in 1995, shortly after I moved here. I hate moving, so we started to do graffiti, garbage, volunteer in parks, and train other people to make their parks and green spaces and neighborhoods clean, green, and safe. So over all the years, we've morphed into a place where we just did our City Nature Fest at Henry Hudson Park and at Ewan Park. So we had some retired teachers at our craft table and working and doing crafts with students and kids. We are in the park sharing horticultural knowledge. I am a 20-year professional from the Botanical Garden. And we're doing informal mentoring. I think everybody thinks of mentoring as this formal arrangement, but we're doing informal mentoring by having people come together in the community to make their community better on a project. I've got a young man from Marble Hill that volunteers with me. He has his own group now. He's using what he learned with us, doing hands-on work to teach younger people. So when you start talking about different ways to connect people across generations or projects, think of the green spaces. There's a lot of groups in this community that stewards of Ewan Park, stewards of Bruss Park, stewards of Henry Hudson Park. I'm working with Lisa Daub to try to help her start a group for Hackett Park. So those are great places to connect. And we have many students do community service hours with us. So, you know, I can be a resource and connect the committee to some of those schools and other groups that volunteer with us. Because we should all come out and play outside, I think.
Agreed. We should all play more. It keeps us young at heart and good for our bodies, good for our minds. Thank you. Any other thoughts? So for those of you who weren't in our last meeting, I just also want to make sure you're aware that we did agree to take on attempt to take on the Memorial Grove Veterans Day event as an intergenerational joint committee kind of project. If you're not familiar with the event, it's on or around Veterans Day. I think it's usually the weekend closest to it. And my cat's gonna knock my camera off. I can see her plotting, sorry. It usually involves cleaning up the Grove. If you're not familiar with the Grove, it is actually in Van Cortlandt Park. It is a section where there are plaques. I believe they're called plaques. They may be technically something else, that have names of people from the area who served in different capacities in our armed forces and different wars, mostly I believe World War I and II. There are some Vietnam veterans in there. All of the placards are actually tied to a tree, making it the Grove. So before the event, there is some cleanup things that need to happen. There are some planning things that need to happen. They're setting up for the actual event. There are color guards and speakers and electeds and the reading of the names in the Grove, and then, breakdown and such. So I do think this is an opportunity where we could, there are lots of places where we could participate. Not saying we have to decide this right now, but I do also want to flag that because we're breaking for the summer and we will not be meeting again until mid-September, we will probably have to do some decision-making at that meeting so that we can do the planning in October and the execution in November. Any other intergenerational business or discussion about the kind of joint work with aging? Okay. Is there any new business for the committee?
I'm not sure if it fits perfectly into youth. And so I have a note and then also something personal I'd like to say, if you don't mind.
Please, the floor is yours.
Well, so first of all, so the Department of Education released their calendar for next year, and they decided to eliminate 2 of the Passover observance days, meaning that in the past, spring break always aligned with the holiday of Passover. And this year that will no longer be the case. So there are going to be 2 days when observant Jewish students wouldn't be able to come to school for religious reasons. And this is in addition to another 4 to 6 days, depending on the year, that students would have to miss for other holidays. So I'm going to talk to Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs. Also, I'm going to come to their committee meeting this month, but I also wanted to bring it up here. I don't know if we could pass a resolution. I don't know if this really fits into the purview of youth, but I wanted to make it known. I also wanted to note that this is going to be my last meeting because I'm planning to resign from the board because I will be going to college next year. And I don't think I could be on the board while living not in the city. So thank you very much. It's been a very valuable experience for me. I've really learned a lot. It's been a pleasure to meet everybody. And so thank you.
I will take a point of personal privilege and say it has been great working with you. You have kept us grounded and provided a perspective that we so desperately need, both in this committee and on this board. And even if you could participate, I would encourage you to focus on freshman year. That's always the doozy. So, after college, you come back to the district where I will be welcoming you with open arms. Don't you worry.
That's the hope.
As to the calendar issue, I think this is a perfect thing for a joint resolution between youth and aging, because community centers who are here, please correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the time your calendars kind of line up with the DOE calendars as well. So it does affect both sides of that coin, in that they will probably be open instead of closed or vice versa. And so it'll affect their functioning and their students' participation, I would imagine. But please, if I'm not 100% correct, please correct me. I want to
Yes,
make sure
we
that
follow the DOE calendar. We have especially for after school programming and the like.
Yeah.
Very much.
So what I will do is I will reach out to Sylvia. Well, also, for those of you who don't know, this probably should have been my chair's report. We are technically voting on new chairs in our June meeting. So every June, every chair is kind of up for grabs. Most of us don't have any opposition at this time, but anyone can nominate any community board 8 member from the floor. So I might wait until after that event to make sure that, but I do think this is something, if I'm not the aging or the youth chair that I will strongly encourage the new youth chair to take up. And if Sylvia, for some reason, is not the Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs chair, I will put my full weight behind that with a joint resolution come out of these committees September or not too long thereafter.
I appreciate that. Maybe I'll keep on joining the meetings.
You are more than welcome. Is there any other new business? Anything in your individual centers or work that you need our help or support with?
Well, it's not anything I need help with. I just want to say thank you to the community board for helping me get my students with a good attendance and good grades to go to a game recently. They really enjoyed it. So it was something that was very unexpected, and we were able to select students who've been doing good academically and in the community. So it definitely helped us out, and I just want to say thank you again.
Oh, you're very welcome. I believe you're referring to the Yankee leadership tickets. They do, yeah. That's a really lovely event. If you're not aware, in addition to doing an award for individual students, they release tickets that we try to distribute throughout the district so that they can go to a Yankee game, have a day outside. And I believe there are also some special activities that happen. So it's a great day for those who can participate. Last call for new business. Any old business? Okay, the only old business that I had that I had in my minutes that or my notes that we were going to try to take up today, and again, giant asterisks, we can roll this over to September, is the resource fair. If we wanted to try to start like working backwards to establish a tentative timeline, or if we wanted to pull that, I know, interest has waxed and waned. The committee can move forward and just ask, the office to do a full like marketing blitz, so to speak, so that, whatever it is we decide we run with, or we can put a pin in it and see what interest is like in the fall. What do folks think is the wisest course of action?
I mean,
I know oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you started before me.
For us at Fort Independence in Marble Hill, with the summertime season starting, we wouldn't really be able to focus on the resource fair. But I know definitely like come September, it'll be something that we both, if I'm speaking out of turn, Kamar, let me know, that we both will be interested in joining, participating in, just to build more of a community involvement. So I think September would be a perfect time to bring it back around.
Yeah, I agree. I think the ideal time to host this fair is in like the beginning of the year, September, October, November, the beginning of the academic year, because that gives community centers time to kind of attend and process and implement some of the ideas or resources they hopefully pick up by the end of the year.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Any other thoughts before I chime in with mine? So yeah, I think the fall is probably a better time when, when things are starting up, if we can connect people then. I do just want to recognize that November would probably be more realistic. If we were going to do it for September, we would have to make some really big decisions tonight, and I don't think we're prepared to do that. Or we would have to kind of scramble in the September meeting to get it off the ground for October. So I would say that we pause tonight, we make it the focus of our September meeting with a target of, either replacing the November meeting or something to that effect, so that we can get some of the centers and some of the other resources in the community together. And again, maybe we also carve out a space for intergenerational programs to make sure those are represented as well. in November, that will mean we're tackling 2 events with the Memorial Grove and the resource fair, but I do think that that is definitely achievable since they will be, the Memorial Grove will have 3 committees supporting it. I don't imagine it'll be a heavy lift for this committee. For those of you who don't know, it's Youth, Aging, and the Special Committee on Veterans Affairs. So I do think that, you know, maybe a little bit more of what's our slice of this pie, and that's what we're taking, as opposed to putting something together. So is there any concerns about that plan of putting a pin in it till September, kind of sketching it out pretty well in September for a target date of a November fair? All right, I'm going to take the silence as assent and move right along. So unfortunately, the only 2 items we have left are items we kind of need to vote on. This does kind of put us in a bit of a bind, specifically for the Comeback Kid Award. I will say this, we received, because I pulled them up, because I did look at them before the meeting this time, and if you've been to my meetings, that's a big deal for me. I'm usually scrambling in the meeting, but it looks like we received 4 applications. I am a big fan of let's recognize as many people as possible. That it's not a pie. Recognizing 2 kids doesn't take anything away from the first one. However, I do want to acknowledge that right tonight, only one of these applications is complete because 3 of them do not have the young person's resume. They all have the completed application. I think one of them is actually even missing the letter of support. What I would like to propose, and you know, I guess we can kind of vote, and I'm not sure if it needs to be all 3 of us, because that seems like, but if, you know, if it only has to be the 2 of us, we can vote. What I'd like to propose is that if the community centers or I think we got some from the precinct, get us the young person's resume and complete the application, that all of the young people will receive the award. However, we will only be given to applications that are complete by, and we give them another date, maybe June 30th or something, so that by the time we're done with this, and then also technically, or maybe June 28th, because I think our meeting's the 29th. Technically, if we have to vote on this, you know, we can vote from the floor and the full board. I don't like to do that because it does take some time. But that is my instinct, is that we tell them, hey, these are incomplete. We need these items and you have until the 28th to get them, or we'll be unable to consider your application.
I think that's a good plan.
Yes, one of them was a 1st grader, right? For the Comeback Kid? Or was that mix up?
Hold on.
Engel? Did I read that wrong?
I know there was discussion about it, but I don't think a 1st grader is actually eligible. I think we have a higher age parameter.
Right, I'm just, okay. That's
Is a
what I was
college
talking about.
student eligible?
I'm sorry?
There's a college student.
I believe so. Of course, the one thing I don't have is the instructions, which I was really hoping, because I was like, I know they usually forget the resume. Let me circle back with the board office and make sure I have the current guidelines. But again, my thing is, if they're eligible and complete, I'm happy to give them. It doesn't cost, there's no money associated with this. Unfortunately, we don't really have a prize, but I do think it's important to recognize people who don't give up, who keep fighting, especially when we see that in our young people. I just think it's important to recognize hard work. So yes, I will make sure that all of these meet criteria, and then if they're complete by the 28th or something, I would suggest that we honor all complete and eligible applicants.
Okay, and I should tell, I guess, Eleanor to reach out to you. For part of the committee for that one. I'm from KHCC, and I know she typically attends this.
Yes, if she can reach out to me, or the board office will put her in touch with me, because unfortunately we don't have a chat feature. I'd put an email in the chat. But yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, words of wisdom? All right, if there are none, I would like to thank you all for joining me this evening, and again, your patience with our miscommunications. I hope to see many of you back in September, but if not, either way, please have a safe and the summer that you need to have, whether it's eventful or quiet, whatever it is you need from this summer, I hope it gives it to you. And I look forward to seeing you all again in the fall, if not sooner. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you all.
Yeah, have a
Thanks,
good
bye,
night.
and
Bye.
congrats
Bye.
and good luck in college, Leona.
Thank you.
Good luck in
Bye.
college.
Good evening.
Yes, enjoy college. Make fun. Friends, both.
Thank you for letting me attend.
Always, we're happy to have you.